So, now, today, we are going to talk about, in particular, developmental theory. There's probably whole college classes on that, and we're going to cover it in about 15 minutes. That's because I'm such a great teacher. I can get it across in 15 minutes. Other college professors need a whole semester to get it across, but I can do it in 15 minutes. No, actually, the reason is because I believe it's important for you to understand just the surface, to hear the terms, to understand the idea, but it's not so important that we have to study it for a whole semester. Developmental theory is a study of human psychology. Let's get the problem with that word taken care of. What is psychology? In its clearest, in its simplest sense, what is psychology? We have 3 volunteers.
Study of human thinking.
Study of human thinking. Okay, what were you going to say?
Study of the mind.
Study of the mind. Okay.
I was going to say how people think.
How people think. Okay. Anybody think it's any different or more or less than that?
Like how and why people make choices or decisions, so it'd still be the mind.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's like the why behind it.
The why behind it. Okay. All right. And that's what. And so with that, you're going to say that's where the emotions and stuff comes in, because emotions are not thinking.
Right.
Okay. So it's more than just how people think. It's a study of human nature. It's a study of human nature. Okay. Now, modern psychology, Freudian psychology, denies the way that God made human beings, right? And so they start wrong and they end up really wrong, okay? They deny guilt, they deny God, they deny all kinds of stuff. And so we have lots and lots of problems with typical psychology. I'm not about to write a Christian psychology book. We have people that are Christian psychologists who say, you know, all these guys brought to mind very important things. And so they'll take some of their stuff and then find Bible verses to go with it and all whatever. We're not going to do that. But we're not going to deny that humans have a nature. We're not going to deny that as a person that's trying to help someone else, whether it's a parent, a Sunday school teacher, a bus worker, or a Christian school teacher, it is our responsibility to know what our students are like so that we can help them learn what we're trying to teach them. Okay? So, the extent of this psychology, and we're going to cover all of it in 4 lectures, okay? So we're getting in real deep, okay? That's a sarcasm, okay? It's just so that we know some terminology, and maybe not even know, heard it. We've heard some terminology. So if you're going along 10 years from now and you say, I want to try to do this better, and you go to the library or you go on Google, if Google's still around in 10 years, and you say, I need help teaching this. Well, you get some articles, they're going to use terminology that everybody understands that some Christians have never heard before. The terminology, most of it, there's nothing evil about it, okay? It's the way we use the terminology. It's the meaning we put, and all of that type of thing. So that's the extent of the psychology that we're going to talk about, but I do give an explanation, but I refuse not to use the word, because it is what we're talking about. I could use a paragraph to describe what we're talking about, or I could say psychology. Now I spent my paragraph right now, and now I don't have to say it anymore. The paragraph every time we're talking about psychology. human development, the way people think, the way people act, human nature. So, in 1980, the man that developed developmental theory, I'm pretty sure that's when he died. Yes, he died. Jean, or however you say this name, Jean. Us Americans, we call him Jean. Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget. Jean, first name, Piaget. 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 He was born 1896 to 1980. The specific dates are not that important, but I want you to see the time period in American history when he lived, because there's a point to be made by that. He, during his life, studied children's development. His own children is where it started with. He noticed certain things. He was probably an educator or whatever. Maybe he was a psychologist before this time. But he noticed and began to study how his children developed, and then studied how other children developed. And he wrote something that is now understood as developmental theory, a theory of child development. Okay? But developmental theory. And in his developmental theory, he says there are 4 stages of cognitive development. Okay? Cognitive. C-O-G-N-I-T-I-V-E. Cognitive development. Now, cognitive development has to do with our mind. Recognize something. Okay? I understand it, I see it, I re-see it, I recognize something because I've seen it before. So anyway, cognitive development has to do with our mind and our thinking. So he said there was 4 stages of cognitive development. He identified 4 stages in cognitive development. The first stage, and you'll want to know these 4 stages. You don't need to know the sub-stages and all that, but you'll want to know the 4 stages just as a matter of fact, information. Okay, which we'll talk about that tomorrow when we talk about taxonomies. But the first stage is the sensor-motor stage. S-E-N-S-O-R-I-M-O-T-O-R. Sensor-motor stage. And that is basically infancy. Our infants' minds developed less than toddlers' minds. Yes. I mean, their whole mind is there, but it hasn't progressed to a certain point, okay? We're not talking about, and maybe he is, but he's not taught. I don't understand this as the evolution of a child's mind. It's the development of their mind. It's not more or less there. It's just less ignorant. The longer we live, the less ignorant we are, hopefully. So, sensory-motor stage, infancy. If you're using pen and paper, drop a couple lines and then write pre-operational stage. If you're on a typewriter, you can always go back and insert. Okay? Pre-operational stage. So the first stage is sensory-motor stage. And I'm saying this because I'm going to come back and read what these are before we conclude. But the second stage is the pre-operational stage, and that's like toddler and early childhood. And that's, so early childhood, does he put ages on this? No, but by the way he's describing the next one, 5 to 6 years old. From toddler, so what is that, 2? Somewhere in the 2 year, between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. Pre-operational stage. Okay? Then the third stage is the concrete operational stage. Concrete operational stage. And the age groups, people are in this stage in elementary to early adolescence. So that's going to be 6 to 14, 15, something like that. And then the fourth stage is formal operational stage. Formal operational stage. And that age is adolescence and adulthood. All right, now, I'm going to just read a description of these things. Please don't write them down, okay? It's not that important. It's more important that you understand what's going on, what I'm trying to say. If you're really concerned about it, you can see me later and I can give you the address where I got this from, or you can do a quick search, type developmental theory, and there'll be more, you'll drown in whatever they're giving you, okay? So, back to sensory motor stage. We're thinking about cognitive, mental development. Okay, children or human beings develop through these stages, and what the names he gives them, okay, maybe we give them a different name, but it does kind of make sense how things go, and it helps us as teachers. If you're in the nursery and you want to be influential over these kids in a church nursery, you know, what can you do? What probably won't work? You say, I know that because I work in the nursery, but it helps to have it articulated. So, sensory motor stage, infancy. In this period, and this is where we can laugh, because, yes, ensemble members, you can take off if you need to, but in this period, which has 6 stages, okay, so he recognized 6 stages in infancy, okay? Intelligence is demonstrated through motor activity without the use of symbols. Okay, so a word is a symbol. If I say desk, is that word a desk? No. The desk is the desk, right? But a word is a symbol of a thing. Words are powerful things, aren't they? So, intelligence is demonstrated through motor activity without the use of symbols. So, a baby is not when it's first born, it doesn't even have much motor activity, but it grows and it develops and it can move things. Sometimes it doesn't know that what its hand is doing, right? But after a while, then it does know what its hand is doing. It does know that it's biting its foot. So intelligence develops and is demonstrated through motor activity without the use of symbols, and knowledge of the world is limited, but it's developing. It's limited because it's based on physical interactions and experiences. How much does a baby know of the world? Nothing. But as it grows through infancy, it knows more. It begins to recognize faces. It recognizes voices. Some voices it recognizes, some it doesn't. Its mind is developing, right? So children acquire object permanence about 7 months of age. Object permanence is memory. And then physical development, mobility, being able to crawl, allows the child to begin developing new intellectual abilities. We don't think of children as intellectual beings, but it is their mind that is learning things, right? Some symbolic abilities are developed at the end of this stage. Okay, at the end of infancy, some symbolic, and symbol here particularly is language. Okay, right? We say, dad, dad. Okay, does dad really, is that word their dad? No, but they begin to recognize some symbolic things. Okay, pre-operational stage. So, and you don't have to remember this, but remember there's 6 stages of infancy. And if you think about it, okay, they can't even move, then they can start to move, then they recognize a voice, they recognize what a word means, that dad means dad, whatever. Okay, so anyway, that's what that would mean by stages. Pre-operational stage, toddler and early childhood. This period has 2 substages. And in this period, intelligence is demonstrated through the use of symbols. Okay, and again, words are symbols, whatever, things are symbols. So demonstrated through the use of symbols, their language use matures, right? We don't think of a 5-year-old as being mature, but way more mature than a 2-year-old with what they can say and talk. Okay, so their language use matures. Memory and imagination are developed. Ever met a 5-year-old with an imagination? Okay. So memory and imagination are developed, but thinking is done in a non-logical, non-reversible manner. Okay? So they know things, but they don't connect things together. They don't think logically, and they can't think frontward and backward. Okay, you say, how do you think backward? You say, I went here, here, and here, and here. Okay, or we're going to go here, 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 and here, and I went, going backwards, frontwards. A thinking process some thinking processes have direction. Okay, they can think, but they can't connect things, and since they can't connect them, they can't put them in reverse order. Okay, does that make sense? Kind of, enough sense. Egocentric thinking predominates. Egocentric, what's that? Self. Egocentric. When they draw a picture of their family, they got the house, mom, dad, and them, right? Okay, they're the biggest person. They're the center of everything. Okay, that's human nature, isn't it? Okay, so then 3, concrete operational stage. This is elementary and early adolescence. So in this guy's observations between 6 and 12, 13, 14, they're concrete operational stage. In this stage, characterized by 7 types of conservation. I don't know exactly what that is, but here's the 7 types. Number, length, liquid, mass, weight, area, volume. Those 7 types of conservation. Intelligence is demonstrated through logical and systematic manipulation of symbols related to concrete objects. So in this age, they can manipulate symbols, but those symbols need to be related to concrete objects. Have any of you ever used manipulatives in a math class? Okay, 2 times 3. 3 times 2. Are they different? Yes. 3 sets of 2 is different than 2 sets of 3. Okay? All right? We know it has no difference. Well, there is a difference. But concrete objects show us those differences. And children in these ages think concretely. We're not talking about the concrete truck. They think about objects. Okay? When you say, Jesus is knocking on the door of my heart, they don't understand. They think somewhere there's a door on their heart. Okay? I'm not saying they have no spiritual ability. They can understand some spiritual things, but very limited. Okay? And so that's concrete operational stage demonstrated through, and then operational thinking develops, and that operational means thinking that's reversible, goes in one direction, then backward. And egocentric thought diminishes. It diminishes. They develop friendships. Okay? They still are selfish beings, but it's not all about them. Them and their friend, and they did this, and whatever type of thing. Then formal operational stage, and let's just read this. In this stage, this is the last one, intelligence is demonstrated through the logical use of symbols related to abstract concepts. What's an abstract concept? Joy, except she's concrete object. But joy, hope, faith, trust, those are all abstract concepts. You can't put your hand on it, okay? So those are things, those abstract concepts that are really spiritual are very, very hard for younger children to understand, okay? If they've grown up in a Christian home, there's no, okay, now I'm 14, I can understand all of this stuff, or I can't. But those, as our minds develop, we understand more of those abstract type things. Early in the period, teenage, there's a return to egocentric thought, right? Adolescence. And then here's a statement that's interesting to them, or from them. Only 35% of high school graduates in industrial countries obtain formal operations. Many people do not think formally during adulthood. So the formal is the more abstract type things. A lot of people don't think about abstract ideas. I think all Christians do, for that matter, but a lot of people don't even think about abstract things. So, okay, that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about taxonomies.